Hello, and welcome to the Kirchdoerfer Christmas Essays for 2023. This year, we continue our family tradition for the 15th time. 15 years is a long time, but these essays have become such a part of our family that it's hard to think of a time when we don't do them. Each year's essays are a closely held secret, and there aren't a lot of rules. We never know what will be produced. So sit back and enjoy Kirchdoerfer Christmas Essays for 2023. Merry Christmas. After last April's spring election, 2 vacancies on the village board suddenly opened up. One trustee had been elected to village president, so he had to resign his position as trustee. Another trustee resigned because she was also a representative to the Wisconsin State Legislature, and it was taking too much time to fill both roles. The board decided to advertise for individuals interested in serving on the village board, and from those interested, select new board members. I decided that this would be a good way to become a village trustee and be more involved in our local government. An 11-month term would always give me an out if the position proved to be too onerous. I was surprised when 8 others expressed a similar interest. My being selected to join the board was by no means a done deal. I had to respond to a questionnaire and give a presentation on why I wanted to be on the board. In the end, I was selected to fill one of the positions and began to really learn what I'd gotten myself into. Being a village trustee has been a big learning experience. The village board meets on Mondays twice a month. The Thursday before the meeting, an agenda and a packet of the information is electronically delivered. Typically, the packet is about 400 to 500 pages, although one packet did hit 1,000 pages. In order to prepare for the meeting, this gives 5 days to review a set of documents that is longer than most novels. It is assumed that everyone has reviewed the packet and is ready to discuss all of the items planned for the meeting. Fortunately, the documents often repeat in multiple meetings, so often you are just looking for what has changed since the last time we covered the topic. Still, preparing for a meeting can take a lot of time. In addition to board meetings as a village trustee, I am also assigned to represent the board on 5 committees that meet on a somewhat regular basis. It takes a lot of time to be on the village board. Usually, if someone contacts me about a topic, it's because they aren't particularly happy. So the question has to be, why do this? It really sounds like an awful job. There are benefits to being on the board. Oregon is a growing and vibrant community, and I feel I hear about what is going on and am highly informed about the community. I have the opportunity to influence the direction and help make decisions. I feel good about where I live and the decisions that are being made. Even when I don't fully agree with something, I'm aware of why a direction is being taken. It also feels good to represent others and to be able to discuss topics that are important about Oregon. I'm learning to take more time to listen to what others have to say before I form an opinion. There is rarely an issue that doesn't have 2 sides. My term of office will be up in April, and I've decided to run in the election to continue on the village board as a trustee. In the opening pages of Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Arthur Dent's house is about to be bulldozed to make way for a new highway bypass. Arthur is unaware that this demolition is about to take place, in spite of the fact that the plan to build a highway bypass through his house has been posted and discussed at the local planning council for quite some time. The demolition of this house becomes irrelevant when Earth is destroyed as part of a galactic project to build a hyperspace bypass through Earth's location. No one on Earth was aware of the planned destroying of Earth, even though it had been posted in the offices of the intergalactic government. I think we can see the problem here. Knowing what's going on in your local government can be very important. I'm not suggesting everyone get on their local town council. It is time-consuming and a lot of work. It's not for everyone. But be informed. Know why decisions are being made. Appreciate that those who made that decision did so with the best information they had at the time. When your community asks for input, let them know your opinions, but understand there are other voices and the best choice may not be the one you think is right. Don't wait until something happens that you are unhappy about. In government, the decisions that determine action were made a long time ago. This information is out there, and if you pay attention, chances are you won't be surprised by a bulldozer pulling up in front of your house or planet. Merry Christmas.
Black Holes by Mary Cole. I like learning about black holes because there are still things to discover. And because I like learning about them. I first heard of black holes in a book from my school library. Then I started reading more books about black holes and watched PBS shows about them. The more I learned, the more interesting they became. Here are some of the things I learned. Let's dive in. At the beginning, black holes can be created when a star dies and collapses into itself. The gases from the star come together and make a small black hole. The black hole eats anything in its path. Not even light can escape. When two black holes collide, they come together and make a bigger black hole. Eventually, the black hole will start losing some of its energy, and after a long time, it will die. As it loses energy, it gets smaller and smaller until it no longer exists. In the last moments of its life, there is a flash of light and energy. Boom! I hope you learned something about black holes today, and I look forward to learning even more in the future. Merry Christmas!
My Experience with Boats by Tanner Cole. In 2023, over the summer, I got my boat driving license. Okay, let's start from the beginning. My dad found this website called ilearntoboat.com, which is run by the Wisconsin DNR for people who want to get their boat license. The next day, I got to work on it. The learning material was interactive and it was a pick-your-own-path story. The story is quite interesting and I learned a lot. After all the learning, there was a test with 60 questions. I got 95% right. Even though I passed the test, the state does not allow me to drive a boat until I am 12 years old, so I was a little sad to wait. I'm very interested in boats and motors. My favorite type of boat is a speedboat, and my favorite type of motor is ever-moving Yamaha. When I get my boat, I will get a large 150 horsepower motor. I like boats because we can use them for water sports, and I am interested in how the motor works. I have learned some facts about motors already. Most boat motors have 1 or 2 pistons inside them. There are many different types of boat motors, including outboard, inboard, stern drive, and jet drive. My favorite is the outboard because it is easier to fix and see. At the cabin, I really enjoy kayaking and slow-going boat shopping along the shore, checking out everyone's different motors. This year has been amazing, and I'm flabbergasted that 2024 is already around the corner.
Growing the Good Stuff by Abby Cole. In the back half of 2022, we completed an addition to our house, adding an area of 24 feet by 24 feet, top and bottom to the back. The whole family was excited for the upgrade and additional space, providing more areas to hang out, an office for me as I work from home, and a new mudroom and laundry room. However, in preparation for construction, we had to cut down 2 mature trees and demolish our existing garden. Mary took this news the hardest. While Tanner was excited to watch the big equipment dismantle the trees as if they were made purely of twigs, Mary was in full tears. She was concerned that there would be limited space to plant new trees, and now she had no garden. In an effort to console Mary, Scott insisted that once construction was done, we would plant another tree and create an even bigger garden than the current one. Mary was still sad, but felt better about his promise made. Construction on the house started in July 2022 and was finished by the end of the year. Once it was done, our focus turned to filling the new space and moving things around. Mary's focus, however, was still on her garden. She kept asking Scott when she was getting her garden, and not just any garden. She kept reminding him that it had to be bigger than the old one. Each time she brought it up, he assured her that she would soon get her garden. Well, spring was busy with sports and activities, but Scott kept his promise. In May of this year, he built her a garden that is 7 by 18 feet with its own retaining wall. It took a huge effort and a lot of dirt, but Mary was able to have a great garden this summer. Together, we planted carrots, radishes, cabbage, beans, snap peas, bell peppers, and chives. A few weeks into summer, our neighbor asked if we wanted a few additional plants as well. She has her own compost bin, and when planting her garden, she had a few volunteer plants that she did not have room for. Seeing the size of our garden, she asked if we wanted the 7 mysterious plants. I mean, who doesn't love a good mystery? So of course we said we would take them. We had the room, and it was fun to guess what they were as they grew. The mystery plants thrived along with many of our vegetables. Mary spent all summer checking on her garden, watering it, picking weeds, and analyzing the growth and health of each plant. Then the fun part, harvesting what she grew. Mary was so excited to harvest her vegetables, but even more excited when she could share them with others. Every time one of us would eat one of her vegetables, we would all say, "Yum, Mary's vegetables. Growing the good stuff." It was a source of pride for her, and it was so fun watching her efforts provide food for her friends and family. I loved when friends or their parents would ask how her summer was going, and her eyes would light up, and she would go into a full report on her garden. From just hearing her talk about her garden, you could feel how important it is to her. With that in mind, for her birthday, her brother, working with Grandpa Kirchdoerfer, made her a wooden sign to put in her garden so that everyone knew whose garden it is. Besides growing our initially planted vegetables, the extra 7 plants really took off. Once they started flowering and growing, we realized those 7 plants were pumpkins. We were constantly moving the vines to be sure they did not crowd our existing plants, and checked on them to be sure the animals were not snacking on them as well. In the end, she grew 60 pumpkins in varying colors of orange, white, and dark green. The kids had so much fun giving away the pumpkins to friends and even teachers at school. The rest we used as decorations around the house and outside for Halloween. The garden continues to be a source of endless learning and has become a big passion of Mary's. I'm so glad she pushed Scott to keep his promise and create a beautiful space for her to continue growing the good stuff. Merry Christmas.
Pressure is a privilege. Billie Jean King once said, "Pressure is a privilege." This quote hangs on the wall as professional tennis players enter the court at Arthur Ashe Stadium for the U.S. Open. Many of you have heard of Billie Jean King, but for the ones that haven't, she was one of the top professional women's tennis players in the world, who took on Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes tennis match in 1973. Billie Jean won the match 3-0. She also has been an activist for equality and women's rights for most of her life. Why do an essay on a quote by a famous individual? Because this quote is more than just words. What does it mean to someone? Can I use it for myself, or Mary and Tanner, to reach further and take ownership in when situations arise in life, school, or sports? Before I give you my thoughts on what pressure is a privilege means, we should define what pressure and privilege mean. Pressure, a noun, continuous physical force on or against an object by something in contact with it. 2, the use of influence or to make someone do something. Verb, attempt to persuade or coerce someone into doing something. Privilege, it's a noun, a special right, advantage, or granted or available only to a particular person or group. Here are my thoughts on what pressure is a privilege means to me. Many individuals don't like to have pressure on them or be in the spotlight. They are content to go through life staying in their comfort zone rather than risk failure. Most of us are uncomfortable with taking on a challenge or take the risk for a greater purpose, knowing that they could fail. Many commend others that take the risk, but shy away when given their own opportunities. However, you have other individuals who thrive in situations where the stakes are high and all eyes are watching. For some examples include Michael Jordan, willing to take the game-winning shot with the game on the line. Mariano Rivera, getting the ball on the mound to close out a World Series game. Colin Kaepernick, kneeling for the national anthem in protest of civil rights and equality. Simone Biles, sitting out the remainder of the 2020 Summer Olympics to address a mental health issue related to the twisties. Billie Jean King beating Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes tennis match. Megan Rapinoe standing up for women's rights and equality. These opportunities are not given to everyone, and often it is through their leadership and hard work that they have been given the chance to do something bigger than themselves. These situations do not come without risk. They need to be ready for criticism that may come and the spotlight if they fail. How does this relate to 2023? Mary was given an opportunity that not many her age was given. She was asked to play a year up on the 2013 girls U11 Premier Team. Being the youngest on the team, she had a lot of pressure to justify her place on the team, especially because she took the spot of players who had made the team the previous year. She would be able to play with the girls that were 1 or 2 years older and may also have a size advantage. She had a heavy task of playing more physical but under control. It was a privilege that her coach asked her to be on the team and believed in her. Mary didn't let the pressure become too much, even with the additional responsibilities, taking the majority of the corner kicks and playing significant minutes in the back line or on the back line. She also showed a few weeks ago that she could handle the additional pressure when her basketball team was down to 6 players for a 2-game stint, handling all the point guard duties and leading the scoring. Mary will continue to embrace the challenges and doesn't let people push her around. Tanner has had some pressure situations and moments this past sports year, some where he succeeded, but not all. Even when the results were not in his favor, there was still a great opportunity to learn. There is no better way to learn than to look at how you fail, especially in pressure situations. During the Poinette baseball tournament versus Fall Creek, he came up to bat with bases loaded, 2 outs, and the game tied in the bottom half of the last inning. Unfortunately, this time around, he didn't get the hit or the walk to get the run in, but it was such a good learning opportunity. While he felt sad after the game, the next time he is in this situation, I hope he steps up to the plate with confidence, with his teammates' support behind him. In basketball, he has taken the role as the defensive specialist, oftentimes guarding the other team's top scorer. This was especially true when playing Mount Horeb, a Mount Horeb team with a player who could drop threes easily. He had the task of limiting the damage and only allowed 2 jump shots and a hard contested layup. Though through Tanner's relentless defense, you could see the other player was getting frustrated. Tanner thrived in that pressure situation and loved it. In the end, preparation is the winner. Practice those situations and the nerves will calm themselves. You are going to win some and lose some, but the biggest win is that you attempted it. Understand that though we may not succeed in every single challenge that we face, be confident in yourself and take the challenge head on. The only thing we will ever ask from our kids is to try their hardest to do their best. If they can truthfully answer yes, then the end result will not matter. Embrace that opportunity because pressure is a privilege.
If I Went to Hogwarts by Mostel Kirchdoerfer, December 2023. I was reading a Harry Potter book when suddenly I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I was in Diagon Alley. First, I bought a wand, a cauldron, a robe, and a broom. I got on my broom and flew to the train station. When I was over London, I put my invisibility cloak on. Finally, I got to platform 9 3/4. I boarded the Hogwarts Express and I started to read standard grade spell books 1 through 7. When the Hogwarts Express stopped, I was already done with my book. I started to learn the concepts on the properties of moonstones. When I got to Hogwarts, I had to row across the lake, but I enchanted everyone's paddle so no one had to work. Finally, I got to Hogwarts. When the feast began, I said, "Accio book," and I put my book came zooming over to me. And I put my book down and enchanted my book so it turned into a plate. Then I changed my plate. I started to read. When the feast was over, I enchanted the books so it turned back into a book again. Classes started and the first lesson was charms. When I saw Hermione, I knew she would get the levitating spell on the first try. I also did Wingardium Leviosa on the first try too. When I got to Gryffindor common room, I lit all the candles in the room with a flick of my wand. The second class was Transfiguration. I first had to turn a hippogriff into a frog and back. Then it was double potions time. When I had finished, I was about to go to flight lessons, and when Neville went up, flew 3 meters up and fell over, I went to the hospital wing. I, on the other hand, went around the whole place with no mistakes. The second final lesson of the day was at care of magical creatures. The first thing we knew we were going to play with was a hippogriff. I already knew that they were kind creatures, but they got very dangerous if they were insulted. The last lesson was Defense Against the Dark Arts lesson. My teacher's name was Professor Lupin. The first thing we did was a bog heart. They take your worst fears, and if you say ridiculous, they turn them into a silly thing. My worst fear is a Dementor, and when I said ridiculous, it turned into a Dementor with little bits of balloon shooting out of its mouth. 1 week until the exams, and we went down to get a bathroom break. Suddenly a big snake appeared in the doorway, and I went down into the Chamber of Secrets. When the snake tried to bite me, I dodged and shot a Veda Kedavra curse at it, and it died. I got to the Hogwarts station with flu powder. The Hogwarts Express suddenly lifted into the air and straight into the floating book. When I got out, I was back in my living room. The end.
Goot and the Time Pebbles. My talkative. Goot was a paleontologist. He was working in the desert. It was the worst place you could imagine. Rattlesnakes everywhere, no water for 100 miles, and worst of all, tiny yellow cactuses, which Goot had more than a few times accidentally gotten spiked by them. His boss told him that as soon as he finished, he by himself, his team had either gotten bitten by a rattlesnake or had his heat stroke, got to go home after the job was finished. 2 days later, he found the velociraptor's skull. In its eye socket, there was a glowing green pebble. For a minute, it reminded him of 2 pebbles that could control time. One stopped time, the other allowed time travel. He thought, oh, this is just utterly ridiculous. He thought it looked cool, and he slipped in the pebble in his pocket. 7 horrible, wretched, grueling days later, he had found all the fossils and was on his way to the airport. His job was done. Goot thought, I wish those fossils weren't so far apart. I want to see what the dinosaur looked like before it died. Just then, the rock in his pocket flew out right above Goot's head, and the rock turned enormous and sucked him in. Nah, just a robot, he thought. But then he saw another red dinosaur, the shape and size of a velociraptor. It tore the Triceratops' head off. Then he began to feast. When he had finished, there was nothing left but some bones and a little blood. When Goot couldn't believe his eyes. It was a real dinosaur. Seeing this scared Goot. I want to go back home, he thought. Once again, the rock grew large, and when Goot stepped back out, he was back in the present-day desert. Well, that was disturbing, he exclaimed. Well, dinosaurs in the past would eat me, but people in the future won't. I want to go to the future, he thought. Once again, the green rock grew a bit. Goot got sucked in, and when he stepped out, he was in the future. But he could not tell when in the future. There are no flying cars or robots or robots following people around. But Goot could tell this was the future and not the modern world. His modern world. Goot asked the closest person to him what year it was, but the lady shouted, You don't know what year it is? Don't tell me that the No Homeless Act did nothing. Isn't everyone's provided an education and a home? So Goot asked somebody else. The other people gave him the same results, but Goot finally got the answer. 2082. Only 10 years later. Just then, he saw some police chasing a man wearing a top hat and a cross between a sneer and a grin on his face. Just as the police pulled out their weapons, something jumped out of the pocket of the man wearing the top hat. A blue stone. He threw it. The stone erupted in a circle and came back to the man. But everyone in the circle, including the police, had frozen. Goot rushed over to the man, saying, Hey, you! The man turned just in time for a fist to make contact with his face, knocking him out. Goot took a firearm from one of the dozen police officers' hands, took the man's pebble, and blasted it to pieces. The police came back to life. The officers said thanks and brought the cook to jail. He got $100 from the mayor, and Goot returned to his own time. That night, he slept the most peacefully he had ever slept, knowing that the crook was defeated. Bye!
Hi, this is my essay on volunteer leadership. As I get older and the responsibilities of work and children's activities advance, I have become aware of an old attitude I have that is melting away. To be fair, I wonder if this is a normal progression that most people go through, but having come of age in the 90s, I can't help but feel there was a particular apathy around volunteered effort. In that time, working hard, caring, trying to make a difference, these were viewed by me and my peers with an eye of skepticism. The noted fictional zeitgeist of the times, Bartholomew Simpson, himself encountered this in a moment where he was trying to impress others through a dramatic exposition of his impressive skateboarding skills. After flips, speed turns, and an impossibly smooth finish that anchored his appeal for others' attention, a recipient of the appeal commented simply, "That reeks of effort." This primetime animated moment perfectly embodies my youthful view of those times. The grip of this mentality has not been too strong a lodestar for my actions. I was a swim team captain in my time. I pushed to assemble intramural sports teams in college, and I now find myself a group leader at work and a soccer coach on the side. But I feel like I've always tackled leadership and presented effort with a whiff of apprehension. However, as I move through different activities and roles, I have come to realize that nice things require people to step up, to invest, to make the corrections that will make the system better. What's more, I've seen that making things better can get others off the bench. And when people are annoyed at things not being great, it can often be fixed with the effort of initiative of an interested person. This is not, of course, always true. There are only so many hours in a day, and there are only so many tasks that one can manage. But last year I watched as a parent population supporting 7 teams worth of soccer players was able to only find five volunteer coaches, and the result was that only 5 teams were created, and all the players got less playing time. Everyone feels busy. Everyone wonders how they could handle the weight and organization of new commitments. But whether at home or at work, to lead and volunteers means we can bend the tasks to our liking and convenience. And I do not think we should be shy about these facts. Offering a free hand to those trying to do extra tasks is what makes the work reasonable. Soccer practices I run fit my schedule. Games I organize for work will be set up to my commitment level, and they will be tuned to my sense of fun. I make this point because I think volunteers should be provided a maximum sense of agency. I know I'm no pioneer to realize that this is how we make things better. I write this not because I don't realize what others have been able to lead and organize. I write this because I see my own perspective shifting to replace that which came before. I don't know that I have more volunteering or leading that I could add to my calendar, but I think that I've started approaching this whole category of tasks with less apprehension and less resignation. Things will be as I make them. And as such, I should try to have hope and vision about what I can make with those that follow.
Growing potential. When I lived in San Diego, I dreamed of having a garden of my own. I tried growing plants in my windowsill, and the only thing I really succeeded in was killing a lot of plants. Still, I had ambitions about what I would plant in a real garden and what I could do with the different fruits and vegetables that I would grow. After moving back to Wisconsin, I had a small patio that I grew some herbs on with some success, but I didn't really have enough sunlight to be very successful. This year, I decided I wanted to move into a house of my own, and when I sat down to write my wish list for my house, space for a garden was at the top of my list. I looked at a lot of houses, most of which had yards too small to have much of a lawn, let alone a garden.
When I finally found my house, it had a large lot and even had space set aside for a large garden. Though the original owners had put in a large garden, the previous owners had neglected the space and allowed high brush to grow up. I referred to this space on my lot as the wild. I knew that the wild had a lot of great potential, but it was going to take a big lift to transform this large area of brush into a garden. The wild was also seeding weeds into my lawn. It had to go. I did some internet searching about ways to deal with weeds. I settled on a plan to lay cardboard over the ground and then bury it in black dirt in the fall. The cardboard would suppress the weeds and the following spring, and decompose over time, mulching the garden. I waited until the end of September to start working on this project so that I could prep the plots for spring. The first thing to do was cut the brush. I got a brush cutter, and after 2 days had all the brush taken down. Dad used his truck to haul the brush off, as I had nowhere to go with the 8-foot piles of cut weeds. In cutting the brush, I found a small tree growing in the middle of my would-be garden. Try as I might, I couldn't dig the tree out. Dad came over the next day and used his axe to cut it out. Then we ran my lawnmower over the whole area. I also needed a lot of cardboard for this project. I took to scavenging cardboard from the trash piles outside of labs at the UW Biochemistry Department. I got a lot of very strange looks from the graduate students who were working late, but a smile and a good evening seemed to normalize my dumpster diving. The space set aside for my garden is made up of 2 long strips of land, each 4 to 6 feet wide and about 100 feet long. This was a lot more space than even I needed for a large garden. I decided I would seed wildflowers on one of these strips and picked out varieties of plants native to the Midwest, milkweeds, and plants to encourage birds. I also realized that the wildflowers would not come up until the end of May, and that this part of the yard could use some color a bit earlier in the year. I planted tulips, daffodils, and crocus in patches throughout the wildflower garden, about 350 bulbs in total. Now for my big lift of laying cardboard and moving dirt. I had 12 cubic yards of dirt delivered to my driveway and cleaned large stacks of cardboard of plastic tapes and stickers. It was slow going, lay a few feet of cardboard, haul a few wheelbarrows full of dirt from the front of the house to the back. I remember pushing myself at the time, saying, today I will lay this much cardboard, or I will move 12 wheelbarrows full of dirt before quitting. The parents in Abby's family came out to help one afternoon, and we managed to do about 1/3 of the cardboard and dirt, while Tanner mowed the lawn and Mary replanted iris bulbs in my front yard. I was finally able to finish up after the parents dropped off extra cardboard they found in the recycling dumpster at Oregon Food Pantry. In all, we covered more than 800 square feet in cardboard and dirt, and it took several weekends to finish this up. I'm already anticipating spring and have seeded my wildflowers into the dirt, and I've started collecting seeds for what I'm going to plant in the garden, and making plans for how I want to process and store what comes out. I even have shelves and plant lights set up to start seedlings in February, so I have mature plants to go into the ground in May. This has been a huge investment of time and effort, and so far I don't have any return on that investment. I'm hopeful that this is all going to work out wonderfully, but I've hit enough snags already to know that there will be more obstacles ahead, and this could all go sideways and end up being a disaster. Having said that, I have really enjoyed the work that I've put into this project, and it is helping me appreciate the journey and not just the destination.
Pa-rum-pa-pum-pum. The Little Drummer Boy, a song written in 1941, is recognizable as a Christmas classic. The song tells the story of a little boy who approaches the manger with the new baby Jesus sleeping. The boy has but one gift to offer the newborn king, his drumming. I played my best for him, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum. Of all the musical instruments to play for a sleeping baby, a drum? Seriously? A sweet little tinkling bell, maybe. Soft sticks clicking together, possibly. A little humming to If I Were a Rich Man. Oops, that doesn't fit this theme, although it does describe the trials of a Jewish man forced to travel to an undetermined destination. While a drum is not likely the choice of new mothers of most of the whole world, he did get permission first. Mary nodded. New mothers can make some odd decisions. Likely, this drummer did not carry with him a hi-hat or crash cymbals, hopefully not a snare or bass drum, or flashing lights, or an amplifier, or sticks or brushes. Fun fact, my friend Tom Petrus, the drummer at Holy Mother of Consolation Church, has 30, yes, 30 sets of sticks. The little drummer says just this: I played my drum for him. But maybe this new mother named Mary nodded knowingly, not naively. My friend Tom the drummer told me he feels drumming is the heartbeat of the band. When I reflect on how calming to a baby is the heartbeat of its mother or father, I think, might the little drummer boy be offering an environmental heartbeat? A quiet, comforting, welcome to the world heartbeat? Another thought comes to mind about this Christmas carol. I am incredulous that a young boy in a rural area would have drumming skills, let alone a drum, let alone the time and motivation to hone those skills into something musical. Many young kids see a toy drum and beat on it until a nearby uncle accidentally and fatally steps on it. But not this kid. He has a drum, carries it with him, and then, from the bottom of his heart, I played my best for him. It strikes me that we all have skills, maybe even drumming skills. Sometimes our skills show on life's big stage, but mostly our skills display on life's everyday small stage. Yes, math, science, business, psychology, kinesiology, language are full of content. I have no doubt the little drummer boy knew his music, but it is his humble offer of his best that impresses me. I played my best for him. So the little drummer boy throws out this challenge to us. Every day, do we offer our best writing, our best building, our best managing? Same for kicking, catching, running. Did we offer our best response to that snarky email, that curt conversation in the elevator, or that rude intrusion from a coworker? Did we share our humanity through kindness and thoughtfulness? Did we make room for the person who is left out? It's tough to be at our best every day. How tiring to be that open. How inspiring to be that available. The little drummer boy, me and my drum.